Okay, so let's unpack this. It is February 26th.
Right.
And if you're listening to this, chances are you've already, I don't know, used AI half a dozen times today. Maybe it drafted an email for you.
Or summarize some huge PDF you didn't want to read.
Totally. Or, maybe it just built you a grocery list from a photo of your fridge.
Which is, I mean, let's be fair, that's still pretty magical.
It is. And we've gotten so used to that. We're really comfortable with this idea of AI as this a super competent assistant.
The co-pilot.
The co-pilot era, exactly. We fly the plane. It handles the radio. But this week feels different.
It really does. It feels like the ground is shifting under our feet.
We are talking, of course, about the release of Claude Opus 4.6. And when you look at the tech specs, when you see the market reaction, it feels like we're crossing a very specific line. We're moving from asking AI for help to asking AI to actually run things.
And that is the crucial distinction, isn't it? It's the difference between having a really smart intern who waits for your instructions and hiring a manager who just goes off and executes an entire project. And that brings us to our deep dive for today. We're looking at this fascinating new article by Johan Steyn.
It's called Claude Opus 4.6 and the Era of Delegated Work.
Exactly.
And I love this piece because Steyn isn't just looking at the shiny new features. He's not, counting parameters. He's looking at what this actually does to the structure of a company.
Right. The real-world impact.
So our mission today for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to help you understand the difference between assistance and execution.
And maybe more importantly, unpack why this shift forces every single manager, I don't care if you run a coffee shop or a huge department, to completely rethink what work even is.
And rethink might be too gentle a word, honestly. Steyn argues we're entering a phase where the risks and the rewards are just a completely different ballgame.
It's not just about speed anymore. He says it's about control.
Okay, so let's get into the tech first, because the buzz around Opus 4.6 it's huge. But Anthropic isn't even calling this a chatbot anymore.
Yeah. No, not really.
They're using this phrase, agent teams. Now, I usually roll my eyes at marketing terms, but this one feels specific. What are they actually saying here?
It is very deliberate, and I think it's accurate. They're positioning this for multi-step agentic workflows.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of jargon.
It is a bit, but what it means is this. Before, you'd prompt a model, it would give you an answer, and that was kind of it. The interaction was over.
Right.
But with agent teams, the system it can plan.
Plan is a big word for a piece of software.
It is, but it fits. The model can literally say, okay, to solve this problem, first I need to use this tool, then look up that database, then write some code, and then put it all in a report. It coordinates tasks without you holding its hand.
So in the old days, like back in 2024, I would have to be the glue. I'd ask for the code, and then I'd copy it, run it, see the error, and ask the AI to fix it.
Exactly. You're managing the loop.
Now, the agent team does that loop itself.
Precisely. You give it the goal, and it handles the steps. And the key piece of tech here, and Steyn really highlights this, is the context window.
We've been hearing about context windows getting bigger for years. It's always, now we can fit the whole Library of Congress in the prompt.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a cliche, but Steyn explains why this increase is different. He says it's about the shape of the job.
The shape of the job. I like that.
It's a great phrase. Think of it like this. With a small context window, the AI is looking at a painting through a keyhole. It sees a brushstroke, maybe a patch of blue.
But it has no idea if it's looking at a sunset or a stormy sea.
Exactly. It can't see the whole composition. It loses the thread. That's why old models were great at the brushstrokes, writing a single sentence, fixing one function, but bad at the painting.
I see. But with Opus 4.6, the context window is big enough for it to hold the entire shape of a project in its memory at once.
Yes. It understands how Step 1 connects to Step 10. It remembers the compliance rule you mentioned 3 days ago and applies it to the email it's drafting right now. It can hold all that complexity without dropping the ball.
That makes so much sense. It's the difference between memorizing a sentence and actually understanding the plot of a novel.
And the market is definitely noticing. Steyn points to coverage from TechCrunch highlighting exactly this, that it handles sequences of work, not just single responses.
And if you want proof that this is real, just follow the money. Steyn cites this Raiders report that came out right after the launch. Investors are actually punishing traditional software stocks.
Which is wild, right?
It is. Usually better AI means all tech stocks go up, rising tide lifts all boats. Why would this be bad for software companies?
Because of where the AI sits in the stack. For the last, 20 years, work has meant a human sitting in front of a computer clicking through menus in Salesforce or SLT.
Right, we were the operators, the interface.
Exactly. We were the ones interpreting the buttons. But if Opus 4.6 can execute the workflow itself, the AI becomes the operator. It sits above the software. It just talks to the APIs directly.
So investors are realizing that the human interface, layer all the screens we spend our days clicking on, might be becoming obsolete.
That's the bet. Why do you need as many expensive seat licenses for humans to do the clicking if the AI can do it? And this isn't some sci-fi theory. Steyn points out that Microsoft Azure has already started to productize this for enterprise workflows.
It's happening now.
Right now.
That's huge. But okay, let's bring this down to the management level. We have these agent teams. This brings us to the core of Steyn's argument about delegated work.
Yes, and he frames it as this fundamental shift in the question we should be asking. It used to be, how can we use AI to help our people? Now it's, what work are we willing to delegate and what controls do we need?
That sounds subtle, but it's a massive leap. Steyn brings up this idea of the definition of done, which I thought was so insightful, the difference between delegating to a human versus an agent.
It's all about the hidden complexity of just working with people. We take so much for granted when you ask a junior analyst, hey, can you research this competitor? There's a huge amount of implicit judgment going on.
Right. They bring their whole life experience to that simple request.
They do. They know not to, break the law to get the info. They know not to spend $10,000 on a subscription without asking you first.
They know what not to do.
Precisely. They operate on common sense. But when you delegate to an agent team, you don't get that for free. You have to be explicit. Which tools are okay? Which data is off limits? The AI doesn't have common sense. It just has a goal.
And this is where the risk profile changes. Steyn says it's not just about hallucinations anymore. That's what we worried about for years.
Right, the AI just making stuff up.
But delegated work introduces this new monster he calls process drift.
Process drift is, it's fascinating and terrifying. It's when the agent completes all the steps you gave it, it achieves the goal, but it does so in a way that is subtly non-compliant.
Can you give me an example? What would that look like?
Sure. Let's say you tell an agent to clean up the customer database and merge duplicate accounts.
Okay, seems straightforward.
The agent wants to be efficient. It finds two accounts, same name, same city. A human might see the birth dates are different and pause, maybe call the client. The agent, optimizing for speed, just merges them.
And you suddenly combine the medical records of two different people named John Smith.
Exactly. The goal was achieved, duplicates were removed, but the process was flawed. Or maybe it violates a data privacy policy to get a result faster.
It's the evil genie problem. You wished for a ham sandwich, but you didn't specify that the ham shouldn't come from your neighbor's fridge.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
The outcome is correct, you have a sandwich, but the process was catastrophic. And Steyn highlights that this is going to hit knowledge work the hardest, legal, finance, software.
Because in those fields, the process matters just as much as the result. You can't just get the right number, you have to get there legally.
Exactly. And the risk is that a small mistake in the process that drift scales instantly. A human messes up one file. An agent with flawed logic messes up 10,000 files in an hour.
That is a compliance officer's nightmare. So, how do we manage this? This gets us to Steyn's section on Management 2.0. If the AI is doing all the clicking, how do I know the work is any good?
Well, he says quality assurance, QA, has to evolve. It stops being a technical task and becomes a core management skill. In the old world, you just reviewed the final output. You'd look at the report and say, yep, looks good.
Spot checking.
Right. But in this new era, reviewing the output is too late. The risk is too high. You have to shift to, as he puts it, controlling the workflow itself.
He has that great quote, trust is not a feeling, it is a system.
That's the bumper sticker for this whole era, isn't it? You can't trust the AI like a colleague. You need a system that proves the work was done correctly. Even Anthropic, the people who built the thing, are warning about this.
So we have to become workflow architects. But there's another side to this management coin that Steyn brings up, and honestly, this is the one that hit me the hardest. He calls it the fragile competence crisis.
Oh, this is a profound one. Yeah. Think about how you learned your job, how most of us did.
By doing the grunt work. Summarizing meetings, formatting slides, checking code line by line. It's boring, but it teaches you the bones of the business.
Exactly. You build judgment by doing that repetitive, low-stakes work. That's how you develop intuition. But Steyn's point is that agent teams are designed specifically to absorb that exact layer of work.
So, if the AI is doing all the first drafts and the basic coding, what happens to the junior employees?
That is the fragile competence danger. You get faster output today, but you are hollowing out your future talent. If the juniors never do the grinding work, they never build the intuition.
You end up with people who know how to supervise an AI, but they don't actually understand the work itself.
It's like learning to drive in a self-driving car. You know how to tell it where to go, but if it fails, you have no idea how to actually steer.
And imagine that at a corporate scale. A law firm where none of the associates have ever actually read through a pile of discovery documents. 5 years later, they're partners. Do they really know how to spot a nuanced legal risk?
Probably not. And Steyn says leaders have to actively redesign their training programs to fix this.
You can't just learn by osmosis anymore.
Because the work that created that osmosis is gone, you might need simulations or special rotations where people do the manual work just to learn it.
That is a massive challenge. We're gaining efficiency, but maybe losing resilience.
It's the definition of a trade-off.
Okay, so we've scared everyone enough. Rogue agents, fragile competence. Let's pivot to the solution. Steyn actually lays out a practical framework for how to delegate safely. What should you do?
He proposes a really simple but useful framework based on 2 things: impact and reversibility.
Okay, walk us through. What's the easy stuff?
You start with the low-impact reversible work. This is stuff like drafting internal summaries, doing a first-pass analysis of some data, maybe organizing a calendar.
Right, so if the AI messes this up, it's annoying, but the company doesn't burn down.
Exactly. It's low stakes. For that stuff, Steyn says a light review is fine. Delegate it freely. Get those quick productivity wins.
But then you have the scary bucket.
The high-impact, hard-to-reverse work. This is where the red lights need to be flashing. We're talking about financial approvals, HR decisions, regulatory submissions.
Things you can't just hit undo on. You can't unfire someone. You can't unsend a wire transfer.
Exactly. For those tasks, Steyn is insistent. You must have human sign-off and strong evidence trails. The agent can prep the work, it can stage the transfer, it can draft the contract.
But a human hand has to turn the key.
A human has to turn the key. And you need to build these controls into the operating model itself, not just in some policy document nobody reads.
So things like audit logs that show every single tool the agent used.
Yeah, show me your work. And you need defined escalation routes for when the agent is uncertain.
I like that. The bot needs to know when to raise its hand and say, hey, I'm only 70% sure about this. A human needs to look.
It sounds simple, but configuring that uncertainty threshold, that's actually really difficult management work.
And that leads to maybe the most critical question Steyn poses. The fallback plan. What happens when the agent fails? Because it will fail. Who takes over?
And more importantly, do they still know how?
Which brings us right back to the fragile competence problem. If you haven't trained your people, your fallback plan is just empty.
Exactly. If the system goes down and your team just stares at the screen like it's alien technology, you have failed as a manager. You've lost what he calls cognitive sovereignty over your own business.
It's heavy stuff. But it feels so necessary. We're talking about maturing our relationship with AI. It's not a magic trick anymore.
It's infrastructure. And like any infrastructure, a bridge, a power grid, it needs inspection, maintenance, and safety protocols. It's the boring work that keeps the lights on.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've covered the Tech Opus 4.6 and these agent teams. We've covered the risk process drift and this fragile competence crisis. And we've covered the management challenge.
And if I had to summarize Steyn's core message, it's this. We're moving from AI assistance to AI execution. The companies that win won't be the ones with the coolest pilots.
They'll be the ones with the best boundaries.
The best fences for their agents to play in. As Steyn puts it at the end, if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it, and delegated work will become delegated risk.
That's the bottom line.
It is.
It's a sobering reminder, but also an exciting one. I mean, the potential here is to get rid of so much of the drudgery of work, but only if we keep our hands on the wheel.
Absolutely. The goal is to elevate human work, not to eliminate human understanding.
So before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. We talked a lot about fragile competence, the idea that juniors might not learn the basics. Steyn raises this as a risk, but let's take it a step further. If we fully delegate the doing to agent teams, and 10 years go by, and the juniors never learn the basics, Are we creating a future where the AI is the only one that actually understands how the business works?
That is provocative thought. If the shape of the job is only held in the context window of the model, who's really the manager then?
Something to chew on. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.